Hey, what's up, guys? It's comment of the day coming from your boy Sincere. I think Joe gets cocky. So normally I don't do Boku no Hero chapter predictions, but this last chapter, 96, set a precedent for Boku no Hero Academia, in my opinion at least. And I'm going to explain to you guys exactly what I mean, and also I'm going to explain to you my predictions on this precedent that was set. I mean, everybody who read the chapter, you guys know what I'm talking about. Deku's mom, was it a good decision? Was it a bad decision? And actually, I saw an overwhelming majority of people say that Deku's mom made the right choice, and that, you know, it's obvious right choice, and, you know, they're so proud of her. And actually, I'm gonna challenge that. I'm gonna say my thoughts on it, because, you know, I don't think it was necessarily right or wrong. I think there was a lot of ambiguity, and I think there was actually ambiguity evidenced in this chapter itself, which is why part of the reason I like 96 so much, and why I think there is necessary reason to do 97 predictions. The other thing is that it also changes the story of what could happen for the next, you know, 3 months real time and 3 months in the story, you know. So yeah, when Deku's mom said, I don't want him becoming a hero, normally in real life, I'm the type of person to say, you take your mother's word for it, right? You just do. You just respect her wishes, and you take it as the ultimate, right? So, and actually, I think that I think that's been poked at, for one, but I think that also I think that Horikoshi is going to go with that, right? And I think that most people are on board with that. You know, most people agree with me. Most, you know, and I like that. I think it's true. I strongly believe in that, and I base my life on that, right? But check this out. I didn't mention this in my review, so if you've watched my review, you know, this is probably all the information. But in this chapter, we got two sides of the coin, because Deku's mom said that she doesn't think it's the right decision because it's not safe, right? And then at the same time, we got two other parents who gave completely the opposite, the other end of the spectrum, right? And so there is two sides of this coin. So I think the actual concrete decision that Deku's mom, because I mean ultimately it is her choice, the decision that she makes, I don't think is necessarily right or wrong. I think Horikoshi is playing at. He's trying to give both sides of the coin and say, hey, you know what? Is it the mom's choice? Because here's the other end. Shouldn't Deku's mom not do what she wants, but rather what's best for her child? And, you know, then what is best for a child, I guess, is, you know, the whole other question. Because in both other scenarios, and Bakugo's is a big one, right? In Bakugo's scenario, Bakugo's mom clearly, like, you know, he wants to be the best. I see that. I understand that. And, you know, I want you to be the best, Bakugo. And so she's like, hell yeah, get out of here. You know, go to the dorms and do what you've always wanted to do. And Deku wants to be the best too, right? But then, so Deku's mom says, no, I mean, that's where I'm coming at. Was this necessarily the right or the wrong decision? Plus, and this is the second reason I think it's actually important to look at it, because you could just argue, obviously she's making the right decision. She is thinking of her child first, right, because of the injuries. But the thing is, she's under the presumption that the injuries are for a different reason. Also, she doesn't know about the OFA story, and so it's possible she doesn't know the whole story, right? And so basically, what if All Might tells her, and I mean, again, I mentioned all this in my 96 chapter review. I would recommend watching that because it's an amazing chapter, and I explain in detail why it's such a good chapter. But basically, All Might could tell her, because All Might set it up so that he could tell her. Right? Aizen was in the car, so he might just tell her the story. And now this is where it gets deeper. If All Might tells her, then she could become a target for a hostage situation, because it just does a story, you know, like this is a plot, some sort of conflict. Plus, that would be big, and the big reason I point this out, and I mean, this is actually something I'm not really sure I want to step into, because of all the PC culture, right? You know, you're not supposed to criticize, you're not supposed to, you know, criticize people or whatever. But I mean, guys, I'm kind of getting away from PC culture, but also I'm getting towards analyzing a manga, you know, for what it is. And look at Deku's mom. And actually, in this chapter, supports my argument. Deku's mom's character has slowly been degrading. And actually, this chapter, another thing a lot of people missed in 96 is that a lot of these characters look older, right? So like Deku, Bakugo, Jiro, they actually look physically larger, taller, more muscular. They look older, you know, look like they're puberty setting. And so, I I've got to say that it seems like another time skip. And again, we've seen Deku's mom. I mean, she's been, you can see how she's changed physically, right? But also mentally, she seems to be more reserved. She seems to be less optimistic, right? And you can see the opposite in this chapter. You can see in this panel the opposite, how she used to be much more fun, optimistic. I mean, she clearly put more effort into maintaining her appearance, right, or whatever. And so, basically, I've got to say that it's I call it the degradation of Deku's mom as a character, right? And so that's another reason why I think potentially she is making the wrong decision, right? Because she's scared for Deku. She's not optimistic for Deku, right? And so, what if potentially she is making the wrong decision? Between that and the fact that she doesn't know about OFA, I think there is substantial evidence for an argument that she is making the wrong decision. Now, in my 96 review, I did mention how it's very likely that Deku's mom will, or All Might will not tell her, or even if All Might does tell her, she'll just say, no, I don't want Deku doing it. I don't want doing it. But the thing is, the story has to progress. And so my conclusion was that if that happens, then Deku will become a rogue agent. He'll either work at night or work from school because he'll be going to school. And also, the thing about that story, this is why I kind of gone with this idea. I think the thing about that story is because he can then pretend All Might, right? It would give him a new costume. It would make the story really interesting. In my opinion, make it extremely interesting. And not only that, but everybody would still talk about Deku at the school. And so we get the school aspect and we get Deku's aspect. Plus, another thing I think it do is it set up Deku to give Deku some of the greatest spotlight I think he could get. I mean, if he goes to school, it's like, and then what? There's no conflict. And so, not only that, but I think that I don't want to see Deku's mom be a hostage. I don't really think that's going to happen. I don't really want to see that. I don't think anyone wants to see that. And so, with that being said, I actually do think All Might's not going to tell her. And I think that even if he does tell her, I think she's going to still say no. And I think Deku is going to operate rogue. And the reason I think and then I think what's going to happen is eventually Deku's mom is going to realize that how much Deku wants this. And I think she's going to reverse that decision. So that's what I think is going to happen. And that's why I think that's going to happen. That's another thing. I think that also is a setup to make Deku's mom more of a likable character. And I'm not saying she's not likable, but it's clearly a contrast. I mean, there's a big difference between Deku's mom in the day, back when Deku was like a kid, and then as he's growing up. And so, and honestly, unignorable. I don't think anybody can ignore that difference. And I think if then she realized how much Deku wanted this, I think it would also could be a good setup for her to, change as a character and start to, come out of her isolation. And I mean, this kind of ties into another point. Where's Deku's dad? What happened to Deku's dad? Who is Deku's dad? So I think that would also be a really good setup for that point. In fact, go with the other angle. What if Deku's mom changes her decision this next chapter? Then, what would that do for the story? I don't really think I would serve anything for the story. I mean, we would get another arc like we got in the last two arcs. So the question is Deku's mom making the right choice from a completely, personal, example, life, story, anecdote, is she making the right decision? And then is she making the right decision from a analytical, from this is a story perspective? I think there's a lot of discussion that I think you get two completely different perspectives. I don't even think it matters if she's making the right decision, because I do think it's subjective, and I think Horikoshi is trying to tell us that he believes it's subjective, and I think the characters and the canon believes it's subjective, and so, plus, I think the story itself, obviously goes beyond her character, so I think if that being said, I really do think that All Might's not going to tell her, she's not going to let Deku do it, and then I think Deku's going to go rogue. And I would like to, I did the review, I did the predictions, I hope everyone watched the video. Honestly, I think this is one of the most interesting, I think this is by far the most analytical chapter of Boku no Hero. I mean, this is a chapter I'll probably never forget, at least according to the series. But we got to talk about is what Deku's mom did the right decision, because again, I think that from my personal viewpoints, if this were to happen in real life, I think that is the right decision. I think what she's doing is the right decision. I think should be respected. That's just how I believe, right? But then take the other angle. Look at this from a historical, or look at this from an analytical viewpoint, as this criticizing a manga, work of art, work of fiction. Look at it from that perspective, and then look at the canon too. What does the canon say? How does the canon support this? It's hard to say then. It's actually really hard to say, and honestly, I'm leaning towards more no, it's the wrong decision. I think she made the wrong decision if you look at it from that perspective. I mean, and again, my arguments are that look at Kyoka's mom, look at Bakugo's mom. There's two perspectives. This clearly isn't a one-sided issue. Another reason is she doesn't know about OFA. And it's like, the other thing is, I think the outcome itself is subjective. I don't think that one decision means one outcome. It's like, for example, the rogue theory is an example of that. Even if she made the technically wrong or technically right decision, it could have the same outcome. It could have completely different outcomes. One could be good. One can make the wrong decision and have a good outcome. So I think looking at the story, I think it was the wrong decision. But I'm really excited for this series. I want to find out. I want to see. What do you guys think? Because, again, I don't think anyone talking about this chapter. I rated it a 10 out of 10, and not a lot of people did. And I was like, what's going on here? There's more than enough to talk about. I don't know, though. I don't know, guys. I'm kind of a weirdo. So, anyways, thanks for watching my Boku no Hero review. And, guys, peace out here. I'm plus ultra. I'm a plus ultra hat here, too. And actually, someone commented on my post about this. I posted in the Boku no Hero, the Origin Facebook group, and someone commented on my post and said, considering what a burden All Might became to the UA, the rogue path might be something they both agree on. That said, society has had no shortage of criticism of your choosing to continue working as a teacher at UA. They say the fact that you shifted to UA was a problem to begin with, and that now that you can no longer fight, what would happen if the children were get rolled up in events once again? Which is interesting, and it might even support the rogue theory even more, in saying that if you're reading this, then I'm not gonna lie, I didn't completely understand this. But how I interpret this is that maybe All Might step down, right? But he might take Deku on, still take Deku on, and say, hey, you know what? This needs to happen for the sake of humanity. It needs to happen that you become a hero, and it's like for the sake of the short term and the society's angles, society's viewpoints, and even honestly for the sake of the children. At the school, because he can't defend them really anymore. So even for the sake of them, maybe he will tell them about OFA. Maybe to tell Deku's mom about OFA, and then they'll both agree on that the rogue path is the way to go. Maybe a Deku and All Might will. Maybe All Might Deku's mom doesn't care. So who knows? Anyways, again, I thought it was a great chapter. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna get out of here.